Welcome back already to the TI4 Qualifiers presented by Monster. I'm Gods, joining me is Synderen and Frodo Kip. How you guys doing?
Frododa.
Frododa?
I'm doing just fine. I'm looking forward to this next game. It's coming down to the wire. I mean, SEA was exciting enough as it is, and now we have a tiebreaker.
Yeah, for those of you just tuning in, shame on you. You've missed some amazing Dota, but we've got a three-way tie in the qualifiers. First two places, top 1 and 2, was taken by Arrow Gaming as well as MVP Phoenix, and MiTH, Mineski, and Orange are tied in a three-way tie for third place. Two of those three teams will advance. First tiebreaker match, MiTH Trust overcame Orange, and now we're into our second one, MiTH versus Mineski. Guys, you've seen a lot of the group stage matches of the last couple of days. What are we thinking as far as this match goes and the tiebreaks in general? Which two teams do you see advancing?
MiTH. That's pretty much the only one I can say right now.
Yeah.
I think they got away with it in the last game, which was, well, they overcame a big big disadvantage there. But the previous games we saw of them today, at least the one Sunsfan and I cast, they were just rolling.
You saw them beat Arrow Gaming, correct?
And that game wasn't even close. They crushed them completely. It was a 30-minute game. Arguably, Arrow did not have a lineup that went well past the 30-minute mark. But like Hell's got his Morphling, he farmed like hell. And the supports played very well, their mid laner played well. The thing is for MiTH Trust, I feel like their comfort zone is when they get a safe lane for like Hell's and they're untouched there. He just gets to farm for the first 20 minutes.
That's where that happens.
He gets to play split push, then they're incredibly strong. At the same time though, Mineski has had some good games, but the game we actually saw MiTH versus Mineski today. That was one of the matchups. That was actually that was the first one.
Yeah, you've seen MiTH
destroyed them in that game. Completely ran them over. It was like they almost had 1,000 gold lead per minute in that game. It's
once again that selection bias coming on. You've seen all the games where MiTH Trust has been crushing. I've seen one or two where they did kind of shaky though, and that was to me where it's like, well, when they're good, but when they're off, they can somehow look. Like even when you get, I've seen games where like Kells even gets that safe lane free farm, but they get so badly crushed in their other two lanes that he never does anything because they're too far behind. So we'll see how Mineski base kit. What do you think of Mineski's like as far as the tiebreakers are concerned? How good of a shot do you give him?
I actually like Mineski. I think as far as the tiebreakers are concerned because their strengths really lie in their early to mid game. Like they struggle a little bit to close out games sometimes, but when things go well early, those are generally games that Mineski win, and if it does come down to time rating, then I think you have to give them an edge. Because if it comes down to time rating, they would have to win, and if they're going to win, they're going to win quickly, I feel. So we'll see. Their support play has been really solid, I think, over the course of the competition. Jesse has been super consistent. The biggest problem, I think, has been overextensions from Jay from time to time. He's had a couple of games where he's just kind of on a different page to the rest of his team, and I think that's caused them some problems. So we'll see how they go. These two teams know each other really well, and so this matchup should be pretty interesting.
That's that's what's most interesting about these two teams in the tiebreaks. How well they know each other. But we'll get ourselves in the game. The draft well underway, guys. So without much further ado, Base Skip and Synderen, it's our second tiebreaker match, MiTH Trust versus Mineski.
Yeah, we're actually kind of far into the draft already. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. So let's really quickly just run over the bans that went down. So the first phase bans Naga, Siren, Bat Rider, Lycan, Ember. Not too big surprises here. The second phase a little more interesting. The Wraith King was actually the hero that MiTH Trust absolutely crushed Mineski with earlier today, played by Lakels, so they don't want to deal with that. Shadow Fiend banned out against Jay. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Together with the Templar Assassin. These are probably his two most successful heroes this tournament.
I think that's fair to say.
And the Doom that Mineski chose to pick this time, you know what? MiTH crushed that one when it was played by Jay. So we'll see if they get if this is going to be significantly different. At least this time Mineski sniped the Morphling away from MiTH Trust. But he is picked into a Morphling Invoker, which is not his best matchup.
Yeah, the Shadow Demon Invoker is not going to be the most amazing matchup for the Morphling. I mean, we've talked about it at length over the course of just the qualifiers in general. We saw that one game of Shadow Demon ET up against the Morphling. Didn't matter how much farm the Morphling had because every single little bit of it got turned around straight back onto him in the fights. And yeah, Shadow Demon in general just really nice to have as far as that's concerned. And I don't mind Mineski's draft so much so far. Oh, okay, Viper's going to be the pickup here. So they've got something that's going to attempt to, I guess, crush the Invoker as far as lanes are concerned. Lanes are looking pretty obvious as well. It's probably offlane / jungle Doom, Viper heading towards mid, Morphling heading towards the safe lane, and Terrain Protector just trying to slow the game down in general. But Sind, what's your take on the Viper pickup? I know we had some discussion on the couch earlier today or earlier in the qualifiers about Viper, and opinions were a little bit divided. So what's your take?
I think overall Viper is the type of hero where you want to, first of all, you want to win your lane. If you don't win the lane with Viper, he's kind of an off pick, I feel. It's a big part of his role to make sure he gets out ahead. Against Invoker, he will generally win, so that's okay. There's no one from MiTH Trust that even stands up to him very well. There's very few heroes that do it in general, but Invoker, in my book, not one of them. So that's okay for them for now. In connection with that, I feel like you should play a type of lineup that excels around the later portion of the mid game, where Viper gets really strong. So maybe either you focus on the early mid game, around 10 to 15 minutes with a fast mech, or you focus on around 15 to 20 minutes when, if Viper has a great game, he'll have mech and Ags, and then he's kind of an anti-carry. The main concern for me for Mineski's lineup here is that it seems I don't even think you can pick more greedy than this. So. No. Unless if they run 2 heroes in the jungle or something like that. Straight
up Jungle Doom, Train Protector, solo support, and then something else offline.
Yes.
I think that would be the most greedy that Mineski could take this, but that just sounds like an absolutely terrible idea.
I'm honestly considering if it's what they'll do, because I don't think... Have we seen a Radiant offlane Doom yet, or an offlane Doom in general?
I think we have seen a little bit of offlane Doom as far as this qualifier is concerned. And like you said, it's Radiant offlane, and he's got a Train Protector backing him up as well. Yeah. So this is about the cushiest offlane you can possibly get as an offlane player. So the Doom should be all right. MiTH Trust do go for the Shadow Shaman here. Nice to have over on the dire side. Gives you a little bit of extra Roshan power. They've got Forge Spirits potentially to tank things up as well if they go for a QE Invoker. And I think we might see a QE Invoker here. Quaswex is pretty good against Doom and Morphling, but you've got the Shadow Demon for potentially really easy setup on Sunstrikes, and the Nyx Assassin is going to be roaming around looking for kills as well. So I feel like there is a lot of power in the QE Invoker this game.
And if they want to play him mid, if you're going up against a Viper with Invoker, I think you have to get Exort. Else you just get out-farmed in the lane, I believe. So with Forge Spirits, you can actually fight the Viper back, I would say, when you get Forge Spirits if you do it right. So that is definitely an option. Now, Lakel's played Clinks in the last game, and it is available. I think that's the only time he played it so far in the tournament, though, and I don't know if this is really that good of a Clinks game per se. It's good against Morphling if you get a fast Orchid. Can also somewhat go up against the Viper for that reason. But at the same time, Clinks is that kind of, if you will, assassin carry or something. He's like burst-based.
Yes.
Maybe not the best pick into Treant, so we'll see if that's going to be the pickup here. Lakel's has a wide array of heroes, but the ones I believe I've seen him play so far in the tournament were Ember Spirit, which is banned, Wraith King, which is banned, and Morphling, which is picked by Mineski. So they seem to be targeting Lakel's really heavily, and actually Weaver too is one of his trademark heroes, which got banned last. So
yeah, Lakel still has a lot of the traditional carries under his belt as well, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see something like that. Do you think for MiTH that they are considering at all running something like, say, putting the Invoker and the Shadow Shaman up on the safe lane, and then looking to run something as a different solo mid to match up better against the Viper, or potentially something like a duo mid? Or do you think they're going to be fine just putting the Invoker 1v1 up against the Viper? Did they consider moving the Invoker away, is the question.
I don't think so, because Lakel's wants a safe lane.
Yes, I guess that's the key point.
It's the one weakness of MiTH Trust, if you will, is that it's very predictable how Lakel's lane is put. And since they're dire, their offlane options are kind of limited. They're going to pick Anti-Mage here, which I personally think this is a very good pick. The only counter really in this pool is Doom, which you need to be careful with picking Anti-Mage against. But if he plays around it, if he gets to get his safe lane for free, which it looks like from Mineski's draft, they will probably not be running an aggressive trial lane, even though potentially Dazzle, Treant Viper, or Dazzle, Treant Morphling can go aggressive. It's a very hard-to-kill lane. Might want to put pressure on Lakel's Anti-Mage. That would be my word of advice. Do something about him. But I like this AM pick. I feel like it's brave, in a sense, going up against Doom with it, but on the other hand, it plays to MiTH's strengths, and he is very good to have against Morphling.
Yes.
Although they kind of counter each other, if you will. You can replicate AM, that you get your own AM copy that burns mana. At the same time, AM, when he jumps in with that Manta style, Morphling's mana pool just disappears in 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, and a Morphling with that mana is just not scary in
not at
the
all.
slightest. So, gonna jump ourselves into the game very quickly. Do you think does this change your expectations at all as far as the Invoker build is concerned? You mentioned Quasi-Exort is better for laning up against the Viper, but in more traditional 4 Protect 1 lineups, I think you would normally see Quasi-Wex, and there is some synergy to mention between EMP and Invoker's Mana Void. So which one do you lean towards here? The other argument would be that if you go Quasi-Exort, you are a little bit more of a threat as far as teamfights are concerned, and there's more of a chance that maybe the Invoker soaks up the Doom as opposed to the Anti-Mage. I feel like if you're Quasi-Wex, you're much less likely to get doomed in fights if the Anti-Mage is relevant.
It depends how the fight breaks out, whether it's an advantage that Invoker gets doomed or not. I think playing Quasi-Wex, if they go in and doom the Anti-Mage, the Quasi-Wex Invoker can create a lot of space. You have a good Tornado EMP, and then you just put down an Ice Wall. And if Anti-Mage is allowed to move outside of that, he's pretty much safe. They also have Disruption to help him out a bit, so...
And we have the most ambiguous Invoker start.
There's no guarantee
no blades
yet.
of attack. So until we see maybe even level 3 on the Invoker, we're not going to have a clear picture of what build he's going. And that could be an advantage. It means that he doesn't even necessarily need to commit to the build until he sees how things are playing out as far as lane configurations and whatnot are concerned.
I would agree with that. I think both builds are good here. So maybe he's waiting a little bit. Maybe they're discussing it actually at this point. What's the smarter approach? I think you have a really good point with the EMP into Mana Void being a very potent combo, especially since Mana Void got buffed again.
Yes.
Now it has 500 AoE. I was playing it, and I couldn't believe where I was hitting people when I clicked the primary target. It is pretty insanely big, that AoE. Either he takes that approach where they just really protect Lacals and he has to carry it through. But at the same time, whenever you're playing against the Doom, perhaps it's a better idea that since one of your cores will be taken out, perhaps the other one needs to be doing some more damage rather than just
swing around the Rosie. They found Jesse Vash to start things off, and there's going to be a disruption. He is just completely surrounded. They're not even going to go for the block. They missed the stun, however. They've still got the shackles. Plenty of right-click coming out. He's still pretty tanky. A little bit of body blocking going on from TNK, and Jesse, just completely surrounded, will be brought down by this 5-man rotation for MiTH Trust. And that was a pretty awkward way to start things out. MiTH Trust went down underneath, below the trees. Jesse was just walking around towards the top to place a ward of his own and ends up actually being completely caught out. So nice start to the game for MiTH Trust. Guys, of course, this is the tiebreak portion of the group stage portion of the competition here for the TI4 SEA qualifiers. And this is your second game. Mineski up against MiTH Trust. MiTH Trust, if they win this, they are guaranteed a position in the playoffs, having beaten Orange in the first match. Mineski, this is their first game out of 2 for this tiebreak. And very quickly introducing our teams over on Team Mineski. We are going to have Jay, I believe, handling that Morphling, heading towards the mid lane. Oa is going to be on the Dazzle. We've got Jesse Vash over on the off lane on the Doom. Geo on the Treant Protector, and ASXC, otherwise known as Paseo, on the Viper.
And for MiTH Trust, it's going to be something out of the something out of the ordinary for them. They're going to run an aggressive trial in here. It's going to be TNK on the Shadow Demon. Lacals will be playing as position 1. Who is surprised? Raise your hand. On Anti-Mage. Boombell will be playing as Shadow Shaman. Then we've got, I call him Abba.
Yes.
So I feel like it's the only way to say this, but technically AABBAA. On Invoker in the mid lane, and Kites on the Nyx Assassin in the safe lane. So, overall for this laning stage, a little bit surprised that MiTH chose this laning position.
Do you think they were trying to dodge potential aggressive tri lane coming out from Mineski?
I think so. This is not going to be an easy lane for Lacals now that the supports are finally in position. They can harass him very hard. And the kill potential for MiTH Trust's lane against this one, I think it's almost non-existent, and you know what? It looks like MiTH agrees.
Yeah,
Lacals missed. He lacks creeps. He didn't get 1 creep from the second wave, so he's like, I'm going top, guys.
I missed one, guys. That's it. I need all of them.
I'm out.
Nyx, give me your creeps. Okay, we're good. We're back on track. He
zones out the Doom. It's like, Nyx, you are now support.
Yeah, okay, Nyx, your support for now. The supports from bottom lane are going to rotate away. I do think MiTH were really just trying to dodge a potential aggressive tri lane coming out of Mineski, and it's actually going to work out okay. Is the Treant going to block himself? Can they get the surround? Not quite. There's still going to be the Shackle and the Sunstrike coming through as well. Geo in a lot of trouble. This could be, and I think this will be your second kill of the game in favor of MiTH. One more right click from Boombell secures it, and MiTH, things are looking really good as far as the start of this game is concerned.
Their support rotations, obviously they got the first blood, and now they make the right call going for the tree, and will proceed to rotate top and aid the anti-mage. This effectively means that Jesse Vash should be getting pretty much nothing. It's not easy to go into Shadow Demon and Shadow Shaman, of course. As we saw there, these two heroes combined actually brought down the tree and at the rune there, so it's going to be the same story for Jesse, I feel, if he stays a little bit too far up the lane. It's just such a long lockdown time between disruption to set up the catcher and get a couple of illusions, and then the follow-up shackle, which is arguably the best level 1 disable if you don't get challenged meanwhile by anything, and there is no counter in a 3v1 situation. So, okay, together with arrow. Arrow might be better than shackles, but arrow doesn't count. Arrow is arrow.
Yeah, and how do you... I think the most interesting thing for me as far as Mineski's laning is concerned is they have the Morphling mid as opposed to the Viper. So the Viper's getting the safe lane farm, presumably a pretty fast mech, but this Morphling being mid instead of the Viper opens things up a lot for this Invoker. We were talking about the Invoker as if he was going to struggle a little bit. His 1v1 wasn't necessarily going to be a win, and his impact was maybe a little bit in question, but the 1v1 against the Morphling is fantastic for him, and he's actually going to get a lot of farms. So, are you worried at all already for Mineski, just because top lane should already be a win for MiTH. They've got that first blood, they've got a second kill. Invoker's doing quite well in the mid lane, pretty even as far as CS is concerned, and well, they are going to try and make their way in here now with the smoke from the Treant Protector, but we'll see if this one's going to be successful. I
doubt they can pull this off. Maybe, it depends if there is any sort of TP support for Abba. Just a TP on the Shadow Demon now would probably keep him safe, but there is none available. Actually going to just jump in here, and he doesn't have a point in Wex, so he will be brought down. Nice rotation here coming out from Mineski, bringing in both Treant and Dazzle. So, just flat out one-on-one in the mid lane. I think Invoker has a good lane. The reason Mineski might have chosen not to put the Venomancer, or sorry, the Viper mid, they might have not put the Viper mid because he's way more susceptible to ganks. The support duo from MiTH, you disrupt into the shackles as we've seen before, but you could probably get out as the Morphling. We're going to see it right here. He's out of mana, though.
He's snapped up. He's morphing as much strength as he possibly can, but the Forge Spirit minus armor has already come in. Sunstrike, is it going to be there? Not quite, but they don't even need it. One last right click from Abba finishes off the kill, and a little bit of revenge for the Invoker there as far as the mid lane is concerned. Jesse Vash, he's made his way down towards the bottom lane. Pops off the Scorched Earth. They look at the Nyx Assassin a little bit, but that's not going to be a successful kill. And now we've got the Doom and the Viper sharing a lane. So just absolutely musical lanes from both teams. MiTH tried to dodge. They didn't get the dodge. They rotated back to the safe lane, and now Mineski are going to drag their entire tri-lane all the way up towards top just to try and put a little bit of pressure on this anti-mage. But personally, I feel like it's too little too late. The anti-mage is already level 5. He has his Ring of Health. He has his poor man shield. And he's just going to TP straight back down towards bottom lane. He doesn't want the tri-lane up in his face at all. And they're just going to go on
Jesse.
Jesse.
Could be in trouble.
Can they get this stun? They need the Impale. That was a bit of a whiff. Sunstrike also attempted there, but KYT off the mark.
I still don't think they kill him there without level 6 on AM. They don't have the damage to deal with this Doom who has a stout shield. Of course, when he is out of mana, anti-mage just really kind of tickles him with every attack instead of really hitting hard. Of course, Doom with the 1 armor is very killable, but stout shield is definitely important here.
Yeah, Scrabble for the top rune. Geo comes in, but he's immediately
I feel like I've seen this
up.
before.
Yeah, this is a very familiar scenario here. Jay's going to come in and try and help out his support, but it's not going to happen. Waveform over the top of Boombell is going to be able to secure that kill, and Jay will live to fight another day. Backs off, eats the bottle tip, and that's going to be it. So just the 1-for-1 support trade at the end of the day, and the lanes just continue to shuffle. A little bit of pressure being applied by Mineski up on the top side of the map, but I think this pace of game is still favoring MiTH. The anti-mage is still really not being shut down. 47 CS up for Lekels at this point.
He's very far ahead, and it's we can't just look. Oh, wait a second, bottom lane. Here we're gonna go. Is the Shackle gonna be there? He's completely out of mana already. Okay, get blown up.
Yeah, Sunstrike, Mana Void, Lekels, kill secured there for him. So even more gold added to the coffers. And MiTH, the supports have just been everywhere, setting up kills this entire game long. The coordination between Boombell and the Shadow Demon has been absolutely fantastic. The Sunstrike's on point from the Invoker all game long as well. And Mineski, I mean, we were talking about maybe a 10 to 15 minute timing for Paseo to pick up this mech and start getting things going, but it's looking like they might have to be considering more of the mid to late game implications here.
Top
KYT
lane.
eats a Viper Strike, he's gonna pop.
Oh, it's
Doesn't
a
pop
good
the Carapace,
TP!
Can he get it?
Oh.
Oh, he dies at the
He
fountain.
could have Carapaced that actually.
Yeah, didn't
He
end up
was in
popping
base.
it. That was a little bit strange.
Close call. Maybe he didn't have the mana actually
Yeah.
after he TP'd out, but that was really close. And it's important for Mineski to get this kill. Not only do they get a little bit of golden experience from that, of course, but also the whole position around the top tower now. They've
TNK, he's
isolated.
been caught. Waveform hits on him. One more right click from Jesse Vash, gonna clean up that kill, and well, TNK
Lovely
isolated from his support buddy is gonna just be brought down there.
So let's have a little bit of a look at the CS still. So we said Antimage is looking great on the 59 he has at this point. We should not be comparing his farm to
Doom
the
on
Morphling.
Lakel's. TP coming in from Jay. Is there a waveform available? A couple of right clicks. Lakel's taking some big damage. Should be able to secure this kill.
Big kill.
Really nice rotation coming out there from Jesse Vash. And with that, Mineski have actually tied things up. They're going to take the tier 1 tower on the top side of the map as well. And do you think Mineski back on track after a kind of rocky early game?
Yeah, they recovered very nicely here.
Yeah, gold back to
I'm
even.
surprised Lakel stayed there because I believe the Doom. Maybe he wasn't actually visible. He might not have been completely sure where he came from. So Doom is going to go for a MiTH. I think that makes sense in this case where it looks like it's going to shape up to be a farm game. So he might as well do the same thing. Might not even need to go for the mech as we talked about. Viper will probably be getting that for the team. And we should be comparing Antimage's farm to Viper's, where he was quite a bit more ahead before he died just now by almost like 20 CS. Now he's ahead by 14. And Invoker and Morphling are dead even. So I would say just based on that, the farming was going MiTH Trust's way. But with the death they just got there, it's not looking so one-sided as of now. And well, they're going to force away the Viper here. I don't know if anything more is going to come of it. And now Nyx is level 6.
Yes, so they can get some Vendetta ganks going on. The Nyx can actually gank pretty profitably all by himself as well because there's always Sunstrike support available. So KYT in a position to try and make some plays, and despite the one death, he's got his Arcane Boots up. Yeah, there is a wraparound coming from Jesse Vash. He doesn't actually have Doom available. Vendetta's going to be popped defensively, and that's going to be that, though it looks like Mineski might still try and transition this into a tower. And just going back to talking about item builds and progression overall, what do you like from the Morphling here? We've seen a MiTH over on the Doom. There's a MiTH on the Invoker.
MiTH on the Morphling,
yeah, okay,
too.
so it looks like MiTH on the Morphling. So we are in for a slightly farmy game here. And not necessarily the best as far as time rating is concerned, but both teams are playing for the win. They're not really thinking about the metagame so much. It's much more important just to play your style, play what you're comfortable with, and win with what you're comfortable with, than risk going for too much early game, fall flat on your face, and then have it swing straight back.
Oh, nice deny by Jay. And MiTH don't really care about the time if they win the game, because then they obviously have 2 victories and then they're guaranteed progress in the tournament. If Mineski wins this, then of course it is in the hands of, well, it's in the hands of themselves anyway, actually, for the next game. So overall, I feel like time rating is probably not going to be the breaker here, regardless. I still favor MiTH Trust in this game based on the start, but at least Mineski came back and tied this up to make it an exciting game by the looks of it. But Lakel's will be getting a fast Battle Fury. He is about 500 gold away. We're 11 minutes in. We know how much faster this hero can farm than heroes on the enemy team, unless if the Morphling goes absolutely crazy farm mode and build. But I'm expecting from Jay, I think he has to get the Lincolns here first, which is not the best farming item. You'll see in mid lane, there's a Sunstrike he's done.
Is it on point? Yes, it is. That was really nicely set up by MiTH Trust. And yeah, as you said, that Anti-Mage Battle Fury is coming along nicely. Probably did need to see the Lincoln Sphere coming out of the Morph. We don't quite have the treads just yet on the AM as well, so he's not fully ready to be clearing out the jungle every single minute, but things looking pretty good. They're still holding on to quite a bit of map control as well. That's the other big factor for the Anti-Mage, whether or not you have control over your own jungle. They have lost their tier 1 on their own safe lane, so they'd like to take the tier 1 on the opposing safe lane just to open up a little bit of the Radiant jungle for the Anti-Mage, but yeah, I think they've gotten out of the early game, and they've gotten out of the stage where the Anti-Mage is a huge liability as far as your draft is concerned.
Yeah, the main weakness of MiTH's draft was if the Anti-Mage got locked down, which didn't happen at all. And actually maybe a little bit of a bait down here by the Shadow Shaman. Was hoping for Morphling to go on him. He's going to get Soul Catchered here. Can't really go and farm the wards right now. Now maybe he can, after a couple of them dropped. Didn't want to take too much damage. But they almost managed to take the tier 1 tower here. I like how aggressive the MiTH Trust supports are right now. Shadow Shaman is level 6. Shadow Demon almost level 6. And they force responses all the time. They go somewhere, they take either a tower or they get a kill. Do not just sit back and pull since they already have their levels, and they don't want to pull because just give Lakel's the whole jungle, right? Yes. Yeah. Battle Fury up now. What do you think about his skill build, by the way? This is often when an Anti-Mage runs for Boots, Battle Fury, and Quelling Blade. We'll see the Burning build, as we call it, where you get 1 point in each skill, as well as stats to farm the jungle with. He cannot just flat out farm the jungle right now, I think, with this skill build.
Yes. Still needs treads, perhaps. Maybe we see a Vlad as a fairly early pickup for MiTH. We already talked about some Roshan potential within their lineup, maybe dropping the Serpent Wards, using Forge Spirit to tank it up as well. So I don't know, maybe that's the compensating factor for the build here. And I would not be surprised to see Lakel's favoring a full split push Vlad's build, just based on how he's been playing, just based on who he is as a player. So maybe that's the idea. And Mineski, we do have this mech up on the Viper. They're trying to get a little bit of use out of it, but I think for them, the really relevant cores are really going to be the Doom and the Morphling. The Viper's going to tide them over a little bit as far as the early to mid game is concerned, but I don't know how much he's... I think you have to compare him more to the Nyx Assassin as far as your late game impact is concerned.
And speaking of Nyx, he's got Arcane Boots and 700 gold, so the Blink Dagger is kind of far away. I'm wondering if that's what he's going to go for, even, the Blink here. Considering who his teammates are, I feel like this would be a good game for Nyx to go for a Mechanism. No one else in his team is probably going to get it. When you look at Mineski's lineup and what their plans will probably be, they will be revolving around team fighting in the mid game. It's realistic for Nyx to get it, and I don't think he has to be the initiator with the Blink Dagger. They could get a Blink Dagger on Shadow Shaman, they could maybe get a Force Staff on the Shadow Demon to set up with, and that could be enough. It's definitely something to consider. Invoker is going to go for, well, pretty much what every Invoker does nowadays, into the Necronomicon. He could have also been a mech carrier, which was actually trending at some point for the mid lane Invokers. If you don't want to get it on the Nyx, I feel like you should get an Invoker. To me, mech is one of those items that you should almost always get in your team composition. It's just so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I think the one thing against the mech here is that the anti-mage is still probably going to be farming for the next 15-20 minutes, ideally, but it is always nice to have that little bit of extra insurance, especially if Mineski do start 5-manning, as you mentioned. I think just because they've seen the double Midas up, maybe that is influencing the build a little bit, and the Necrobook is still really nice on the Invoker. It gives that little bit of extra mana burn. As far as the Morphling is concerned, you can set it on the supports as well. A little bit of extra pushing power. So the Invoker is just going to be a really scary split pusher this game, in fact. And that could even just be the MiTH Trust strategy. They don't really have a ton going for them as far as teamfight is concerned. And if Nyx, the supports, and the Invoker are just finding pickoffs, that makes so much space for the Invoker and the Anti-Mage to just be huge nuisances. But Mineski are going to go for a smoke here. They are going to make their way over into the Dire jungle. And let's see if they can find anyone. They don't have a whole lot of vision, but they do have a good idea that Lakel's is over here. He cleans up the camp. Is he going to go back? No, he's actually heading over towards his base. He has been spotted by Mineski. Mass ping's going out, but what can they do here? Smoke's just about to wear out. They are going to Nature's Guise the Doom to see if they can get him in range. Cute little plays coming out. Lakel's walks straight into it. There's the Doom. Tries to run back to the tower, but there isn't a TP coming in from the Shadow Demon. There's no defensive disruption, and it just ends up being a very clean kill for the Mineski side as MiTH Trust do try and push in towards his tier 1 on the bottom lane.
And another thing to mention here is MiTH have been trying... Oh, wait a second. Actually, they might just go on the Doom here.
Yeah, disruption, Soul Catcher, Sunstrike, a little bit of damage. Jesse's still pretty tanky. Doesn't have any mana left in the tank. Paseo comes in. Gets hit by the Carapace stun. Cold Snap going to go out onto the Viper as well, but no further commitment coming out from MiTH. There is still Boombell all the way down in these trees. I don't know how he found himself there, but he is going to right-click down by Paseo. on the Vipers. So
yeah, nice
that
play
wraps up that.
nice play by Jesse there. He had 10 stick charges. He used them and got the mana for a level death to stop the TP of the Shadow Shaman. So they've used Mass Serpent Wards on the bottom tier 1. They've used Mass Serpent Wards on the top tier 1. And in total, what it's done is it has drained some mana from Treant to click his E button and click on the tower. And it's given gold to the enemy team who have farmed up the wards. If you're playing against a Treant and you want to go for a tower, you need to commit harder. They need to bring down the Invoker with the Forge Spirits when they use the Mass Serpent Wards and finish it off. It's really going well for Mineski in that regard. They're 3,000 gold ahead, as a matter of fact, 3,000 experience too. It's like MiTH Trust are just trying to give Lakels all the space in the world, which is fine, but perhaps should be doing it by other means than just spontaneously showing up, dropping the wards, and then running away again. Commit a little bit more, maybe set up a gank with the Nyx, like they tried on the Doom there, but missed the Impale, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the big problem for MiTH is just knowing where Mineski are. They've got one Observer Ward on the map right now, but that's about it. No vision over in the Radiant Jungle or anything like that, so committing to the pushes can be a little bit difficult. And you mentioned they're trying to make space for Lakels to get all of this farm, but do you feel that a farmed anti-mage is going to be able to carry this game? We've got a Blink Dagger picked up on the Doom. I feel like you're pretty safe in saying that the Doom is just going to be, if he can, he's going to be blinking straight at the anti-mage, getting that Doom off in every single fight, and that can render so much of the anti-mage's farm absolutely irrelevant. So I worry about whether or not the farmed AM is going to be enough. And we are going to see MiTH making their way into the Roshan pit right now, but Mineski have a pretty good idea of what's going on. They have this Observer Ward over here. They throw in the Weave just to say, hey, look guys, we know what you're doing. People aren't here just yet to stop you, and it looks like MiTH Trust, well, they're just going to keep on going here. Mineski are making their way over to the pit. The disruption goes out onto the Viper. Roshan has fallen, and the anti-mage is going to be able to pick up that Aegis. Snap goes out onto Jesse Vash, and he actually throws the Doom down into the pit. It's onto Abba, who's going to try and run away on his Invoker, but the Shadow Demon not going to be quite so lucky. Lakels comes in, he's going to keep on fighting. Will he lose this Aegis immediately? Not quite. Actually, Jesse keeps on blinking forward. He's out of mana. Nice stun comes out. They've got the chain disabled, but they just don't have the damage. Living armor onto that Doom as well. He's going to be okay, so MiTH, they end up securing the Aegis for themselves. They lose, so just trying to load our way back into the game at the moment, but are we... Okay, so... Hey guys, what's up? How you doing? Enjoying the game so far, Sin? Do you think that... Can the anti-mage do it? That... Okay, looks like we're...
Yeah, we just had a mini disconnect, but we're back into the game.
Oh, we're back. We're back.
Yes.
Let's get ourselves back underway. So we've got some Arcane Boots up on the Treant. We're gonna get these lights off so me and Sind are not blinded for the remainder of the game. Lakels has picked up a Yasha, so it's not gonna be that slightly more split pushy Vlad's build coming out of him. And MiTH trying to continue to make space. They go for this rotation. They spot out the Treant Protector. We've seen this one before. They've lobbed a lot of Disable at him. They will be able to bring him down. The kill goes out onto Boombell. Meteor Deafening Blast thrown out to try and cover the retreat against the Viper Replicate. They are going to get out safely. Necro 3 delivered for the Invoker. He even pops that immediately just to get the extra move speed, just to get the retreat. I believe there is going to send it down towards bottom lane as well, just to get a little bit of split pushing done. But nobody really moving into position to defend this tier 2 just yet. And we do have a Lincoln Sphere picked up for the Morphling as well. So Jay getting scarier, and he is in fact your net worth leader right now.
Well, about 300. The CS is still heavily favoring AM. I guess we can say he's 42 CS ahead, and it will be going higher and higher at this point. He's split pushing. This is a classic Lakels play, and this time I think they might be getting this tier 1 tower. They're committing with the Mass Serpent Wards, but not only that, Lakels is in position. He has backup behind him, but no, defensive TP will keep it safe, and just means effectively again that these Mass Serpent Wards will just be a bit of extra farm for the Viper. Lakels will have his Manta now though, almost. He's a couple hundred gold short. He has the Aegis. I think if you're MiTH Trust, you want to try to use this Aegis. You want to try to fight with it, although you can just play safe and farm. I'm not sure if MiTH is just flat out winning a farm war, not because of AM against Morphling, which I think is perfectly fine, but again, Doom versus Nyx. Doom is getting so much more gold out of the map. He's now 6,000 gold ahead of his offlane counterpart on MiTH Trust, so a lot of pressure on the Lakels to perform in this game, I have to say, but at least Invoker is keeping up with the Viper.
Yeah, and we do have an Aghanim Scepter completed over on the Viper. I think the biggest problem for MiTH as far as taking these tier 1 towers is concerned is that Mineski have already taken all of their tier 1s. So there's there's no real trades to offer. At this point, if you want to take a tier 1 tower off Mineski, you either need to go for a gank and get a bunch of TPs, or you need to muscle it down and actually take a full 5-on-5. But like we were talking about earlier, MiTH are not really interested in taking a 5-on-5 just yet. They have just completed the Manta style over on the Anti-Mage, and as you mentioned, they have that Aegis in hand, so maybe a bit of a fighting opportunity coming out of that, but we'll see if that's going to be enough to motivate them.
Lakels is going to dodge the Viper ult with his Manta style, so a little cute play here. It didn't really make a difference, but
oh, and Blink Dagger
showing it
over
off.
the Shadow Shaman.
He'll continue farming the jungle. Morphling still ahead by a few hundred gold.
Bottom lane, Doom gets jumped, in a little bit of trouble. Is he going to be brought down? Sunstrike connects, and
big bit of trouble.
Yeah, a lot of trouble there. And MiTH Trust finally showing off a little bit of the strength of this ganking lineup here. Well, and the pick-off power. And these pick-offs, they are equally likely to happen at all points in the game for MiTH Trust's lineup. The killing power sort of stays constant in terms of being able to burst down one hero, but the value of individual pickoffs goes up as the game continues. Now we're killing off the Doom. He's 40 seconds dead. That's an extra 40 seconds of farming space for the Anti-Mage. And this is just exactly what MiTH Trust need to keep doing. Find the pickoffs, try and pressure the towers, and let Lakels keep on doing Lakels things.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how this this Midas for Morphling makes Morphling and Anti-Mage stay almost completely on par. He will still be dragging ahead, I feel, but Morphling is doing a good job at keeping him up in farm. I think now, Anti-Mage almost overtakes him. He's 100 gold behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's neck and neck
focused on that quite a lot. So let's see. Nyx
Assassin.
Assassin.
Be a photo finish. Yeah, Nyx Assassin.
Look, if he finds Jesse Vash here, that could be huge. He
Oh,
will.
Oh, they spot Jesse, they ping him out. In comes the Sunstrike. The Anti-Mage going to pop up the Manta style as well. Living armor is there, but it's just not going to be able to keep the Doom alive. And wow, again, absolutely great for MiTH Trust. They find that one out. The Doom
this time the
dead.
tower is gone.
Hopefully this time the tower is dead. Mineski are going to try and make it a trade down on the bottom lane as they make their way in towards the tier 2. TNK going to come in, tries to get a little bit of Shadow Poison spam down. But
top lane. ASXC could be in trouble here.
yeah, gets jumped on. There is going to be a really nice Carapace Reflect using the corrosive skin of the Viper against him there to pick up the kill. And that ends up being MiTH Trust getting 2 kills, 1 tower, and not losing anything in return.
And they might even go more. They're going more. Manta style popped.
Oh, and the Morphling completely out of mana. There's going to be a grave, maybe a little bit premature. Looks like Jay is still going to survive. TP canceled by the Train Protector there. And Lakels just going to keep on going. There is a TP from the Doom, and with that, that's going to be enough to get Lakels to back off. But a huge boon, a huge win for them. And looks like they might not even be done. They're going to make their way down towards the bottom tower. They knew that a bunch of heroes just TP top lane for Mineski, and MiTH Trust, the split push is well and truly kicked in, and now it's paying dividends. Bunch of towers down in short succession.
This is very, very well played by them. They force the TPs. Sure, they don't get the kill, but they are the ones being the aggressors right now. They're taking control of the map, and that's kind of the best strategy when you have an Anti-Mage, if you can get away with it, is being the ones who put the pressure on the map, because then he can go anywhere he wants. The more towers they take down, the safer he's going to feel in his own jungle. The more opportunities he gets to go into the enemy jungle and farm that, because as we know, the jungle respawns every minute, but he can clear it in like 30 seconds. So he is going to go into the heart now after the Manta. This is a build we pretty frequently see. I wouldn't say this is necessarily the most common build, but perhaps it actually is. It's often between either heart or BKB at this point. Sometimes you have a value of lads in between. Sometimes you get the butterfly really early on, right after the Manta, if you feel like you can get away with it. Do you think heart is the right choice in this case?
I like the heart here. I think it gives him more of a chance of surviving if he gets doomed, to at least get to the Shadow Demon, maybe get disrupted, let his team get into position. Also nice, I mean, obviously he's got a ton of magic resist against the shotgun anyway, but helps deal with that burst damage a little bit better, and it means that he can just never ever really need to stop split pushing. Like Lakels at this point can just keep going jungle, keep farming ancients, keep farming lanes. The Morphling is still staying, as we said earlier, fairly close as far as net worth is concerned, but there is a little bit of a gap opening up, and we are starting to see the late game, well, the mid to late game power of that Quas Exit Invoker start to kick in as well. As Mineski, they just haven't been able to make a move over onto the dire side of the map for a little while.
And we keep seeing these TP reactions forced out here. So the Replicate Morphling jumped in. They also even TP'd the Dazzle. They did keep the tower safe, and it's going to be living armored again, but Lekels will just be farming a lot more across the map. Roshan is quite a way away. They didn't need to use the Aegis. I believe it wasn't used by Lekels at all, but he's spawning again in 40 seconds, and with the positioning, with the pressure that MiTH Trust are putting on the map, I have trouble seeing how they would not be able to get the next Roshan as well. And Invoker is building into a Scythe, by the looks of it, obviously one of the best items in the game against Morphling, who, by the way, with the E-Blade, who can he one-shot? He can one-shot both supports, I'm assuming, on the Dire, sorry, but probably no one else. Except, actually even Nyx if he doesn't have Carapace ready, but of course that's a great ability to have against a Shotgun Morph.
Yeah, always going to be really nice to have, and as much as it's going to be great against all those supports, it's not nearly as impressive against the Anti-Mage. You can put some good damage down onto the Invoker, but if you're focusing either of these cores, you're really inviting the two supports on MiTH Trust to jump in there with their lockdown. And we talked about just how nice this Shadow Demon can be against the Morphling. If they get a disruption into an immediate Hex, say, on the Morphling, he's just going to get beat to death by his own illusion. So this is actually a pretty tough game, I think, for Jay. And MiTH, they've done a pretty good job of splitting the map. They know that Roshan is respawned. They need a little bit more split push, I think, out of Lekels before they go in for this one. And nicely played by Mineski as well. They had Jay pushing out top lane, just making sure that pressure on the top side of the map wasn't going to be enough to force them into deciding between saving a tier 2 and going for Roshan. And, well, Mineski actually just going to go for a smoke here.
Here's the full heart.
Are they going to sneak just straight into Roshan? Is this the play for Mineski? They knew that the Anti-Mage was going to have to try and split push out top lane a little bit more before they did anything, and they just go straight in.
They're going to scout with the Forge Spears. This is going to be too late. Mineski just...
Yeah,
they just get a steal, essentially. Oh, there we go. There's the Sunstrike scouting out. I think it might be too late, but perhaps MiTH actually want to try and initiate after the Aegis.
Oh, there's a jump in up on the top side. There's still the Aegis about to be picked up. Roshan falls. Jay is going to grab that one, but Jesse dies to start up the fight. Jay does jump out of the high ground. He pops the Nyx Test and immediately, with the shotgun combo, gets lifted up into the air by the Tornado. Meanwhile, Anti-Mage on the top side of the map working away on that tier 2 tower, but Jay, he gets hexed up. Do they have the shackle? It's going to be there in just a second. Can they get it? No, the Replicate gets him out to safety. It ends up being a 1-for-1 hero trade. The tier 2 in exchange for Roshan and the Aegis, and, well, call it a win for Mineski. That was a bold play going into the Roshan pit right under MiTH Trust's nose.
That was a good play, because that tier 2 tower will fall eventually.
Yes.
So you almost dare say that they traded Roshan for nothing, because this tier 2 tower probably should have even been down earlier. But
how much do they get out of this Aegis?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Yeah, that's the question. If it looks like Jay is turning this into, or transitioning into a Manta style now, he does have the Yasha actually pretty close to the Manta already. So getting very, very rich here, and of course makes his E-Blade that much more powerful with the extra agility. He has the Manta style effect against, well, pretty much nothing actually. There's not really anything he can
Manta out
perhaps avoid a couple of spells if he times it very, very well, like the Nyx Assassin Impale, but that's some pretty that's pretty hard, let's put it that way. So Manta is kind of the go-to item for Morphling in this stage. I'm not surprised he gets it, but this is not the best Manta style game. It's still a great pickup though, and oh wow, Mineski are really aggressive actually, trying to 5-man down mid. I think this could be a little bit too bold of a play.
Yeah, they're trying to get as much out of this Aegis as they possibly can, get every single second. Sunstrike going to be coming in, just some chip damage away onto Jay. The Weave gets popped defensively. They slap away at this tier 2 tower.
Didn't want to glyph that. Okay.
Yeah. Morphling just gently massages it to death. Meanwhile, Lekels is going to be going for a little bit of push over on the top side of the map. He knows that Mineski have just backed off. He's playing it pretty cautiously, but it is going to settle into daytime. He makes his way up onto the high ground. He wants to force these TPs out. The first one back is actually going to be the Morphling. So deals with the illusions, but Lekels not afraid, though he doesn't see the Doom on the map right now, so he's going to be playing a little bit defensively. So this is exactly what MiTH are hoping to do, and this is pretty much the same game plan that they've had for the last little while. Just split push, and in this case it's not split pushing just to buy time for the Anti-Mage, but it's also trying to wait out that Aegis.
Yeah, the longer this game goes, as long as Morphling is keeping up pretty closely with the AM, I'd say this is getting better and better for Mineski. Of course, a hero like Treant, both Treant and Dazzle as supports actually fall off pretty heavily, apart from the Weave ability from Dazzle, which is great the entire game, and a Clutch Grave can make a difference, but Treant overall just becomes more and more underwhelming as the game goes on. On the other side, you have MiTH Trust with Shadow Demon, who, in my book, is top 3 best late game support.
Yep.
Disruption is absolutely amazing against the Morphling. Also defensive disruption. Soul Catcher stays good the entire game. And then you've got Shadow Shaman with a Blink Dagger Force Staff. You know how important hexes are in late game. You already have one in the Shadow Shaman. If you manage to take kills, you have Mass Serpent Wars to take objectives. I think we've been focusing a lot on just the carry versus carry aspect, but we're going to reach a late game in which I feel that MiTH Trust's supports could be playing the really big role in turning this game in their favor.
Yeah, if they get the opportunities to use all of that lockdown on the Morphling, then he could just be an absolute non-factor in fights. Mineski's still trying to get some value out of this
shotgun!
As a shotgun goes out onto the Shadow Demon, cleans up the kill. And Mineski just going to keep on going. Meanwhile, MiTH Trust, they've got the Invoker down bottom lane, looking towards the Tier 2. Tier 2 about to drop on the top side. Glyph is going to be used by the Radiant team as Abba looks to bring in this tower. Lakel is also heading in towards the tower over on the mid lane, and they get the Tier 2 bot. There is a Doom. They've actually managed to find the correct hero, but Anti-Mage is just going to start right-clicking away on the Jesse Vash. Lakel's rounds the corner. He still has about half of this Doom that needs to somehow juke out here. He's going to keep on heading through the trees. Where is the rest of the Mineski side here? They found him, but there is going to be a Hex coming out of the Rasta. Boombell and Lakel is just going to call for the retreat here as the rest of the Mineski lineup is going to be making its way in. Boombell gets shotgunned down, but at the very least, Lakel's will escape, and MiTH Trust overall buys some more time, and on the top side of the map, Dazzle not going to be able to retreat successfully, gets found out by the Nyx Assassin and finished off there.
I call that a clear win for MiTH Trust. They got 2 Tier 2s for 1, and actually AM is going to go in right away on... okay. There was a tree there. He is now in the ground.
Timber!
that was
pretty
nasty. And a Scythe now picked up for Invoker. So, let's talk super late game. It is definitely a possibility right now. The goal is dead even at 35 minutes. Experience 4,000 in the favor of MiTH Trust. Invoker just picked up a Hex. He is probably going for an Aghanim Scepter next, if not a BKB against the shotgun from Morphling. AM will be maxed out within the next, I'm assuming. 5 to 10 minutes, he will have full inventory. What's the game plan for MiTH when AM is full? Do you think they can break the base and end the game, or do they need to start picking up some significant items on the Nyx, who, let's be honest, kind of underwhelming in this game so far? He's got a couple of good kills executed, but his farm is going to drop further and further down compared to the Doom. Is there anything Nyx can get that's not too expensive, considering he doesn't have the best farm in the world, that could make a big difference? I would say he should probably get the Vlads here.
Yeah, I think a Vlad's could be a really nice pickup for the Nyx Assassin. And MiTH Trust, I mean, I think they're in a good position. They got all those Tier 2s down. They're still over on the dire side, so as we head in towards late game, I don't think we can, we can't understate how much of a factor Aegis and Cheese are both going to be.
That's true, the next one's the third.
Yes.
So.
And the other big thing I think as well for MiTH is this Invoker is just the late game monster. He's got Hexed right in his build path, and I don't think Refresher could even be out of the question here for Abba. Maybe BKB and Refresher as his next 2 items, double BKB, double Hex, all of that meteor damage, and I mean, he's got the farm to maybe even start considering that. And Mineski, that Aegis, I feel like as far as their game plan was concerned, they made that bold play. And I think they were really hoping that Aegis was going to get down at least all of the Tier 2s and maybe put them in a good position as far as map control was concerned. But nicely played for MiTH. They managed to wait it out, and we're back to much more even footing as far as the game is concerned. MiTH Trust did a really good job of waiting it out there.
And now, because of the towers all being down for the Radiant, it seems like Lakel's is starting to take a little bit of a more aggressive approach to farming. He's getting a little bit more into the Radiant jungle. His entire team is, as a matter of fact, going in there as well. And with Mineski showing their heroes in mid, this is a very easy call for MiTH Trust to make. We push out fast, we make sure we get control of the enemy jungle. Lakel's farms that. He can TP back to base if Mineski wants to really commit, else we just get some extra farm. Morphling, 4.5k gold. I'm wondering if he goes straight into Skadi. I think it's perhaps the right call here, but then again, without a BKB, he's very exposed in these fights from now on. Sure, you've got the Linkins, but there's just a million single target spells, double Hex. There is the Disruption, which can play a big role in the late game against Morphling. I think he has to get BKB right now, but since he's saving his gold, I'm wondering if that's the case. Yeah,
and we're heading in towards race conditions right now. MiTH Trust going to start backing off a few heroes. It's actually the Invoker leading the way right now. Jay heads up onto the high ground. Lakel's already chipping away at the tier 3 down in the bottom lane. The Doom is going to go out. Shiva's popped as well. There is going to be a stomp over onto Boombell, but this isn't the hero that they want. They are going to try and head further on onto the Anti-Mage, but he's just so damn tanky. Where's the damage? They need the Morphling here. Jay going to waveform a little bit further forward. Lakel's will just be brought down. Will he? He Manta Styles out. He's got the Blink Dagger. Not the Blink Dagger, but he's got the Blink. Heads over in to the lane a little bit further. Another Blink. Jesse Vash not able to finish him off. The heart keeps him alive, and Lakel survives. They force Mineski away from the mid lane.
You know
Jesse going to pop the Shivas one more time.
I think he's happy he was level 23 right there. Always good
yeah.
being a prime number as your level against Doom, of course. So if he was level 24 or 25 there, he would have died to the level death, I think, which is... It is level 3, so the multiplier, the 20% multiplier would still have been there when he was level 24 is a multiplier of 4, so... Okay. Next time, he's not going to get away with that as he levels up now. Yeah, and we'll see.
Barely survived there. And actually, out of this, Mineski get the lanes into a pretty good position. They make their way over towards the tier 2. There's going to be a jump down in the bottom lane. The Tornado comes in on top of the Morphling. Can they focus him down in time? The Deafening Blast goes back. Can they keep Jay alive? There is a defensive. There is a Grave coming out right now. There's a Stomp as well. Ice Wall dropped down. Nobody dead just yet. They found the Morphling in the trees. The Mana Void chunks him down. Lakel's going to pick up that kill, and he's not done. He's not afraid of anybody at this point. Keeps on jumping forward. ASXC in some trouble. Hexed up, shackled for good measure. He's going to go down. The Train Protector manages to escape off to the side with the teleportation, but they lose the gem as the Viper goes down, and MiTH Trust making a statement saying, well, we're done farming. It's now our time to take some team fights, and maybe even looking at a lane of racks here. They're going to sweep down bottom lane pretty quickly, and there's already been some damage dealt onto this tier 3, though it may have been healed up already by the Train Protector.
I think the way Mineski has to play these fights is, if the Morphling gets opened like this, turn him around, force staff him out the Dazzle, reset, and then go. He just lost so much mana and health in that first initiation. The Grave came out great, but it didn't really matter. Morphling had lost so much already in terms of resources that he couldn't turn back and fight, and Anti-Mage did catch him out. And again, without the BKB, it's very hard to play Morphling without a BKB in this game, I feel. And
on MiTH, they split up a little bit. Lakel's going to head over towards mid. He's gotten Doom, but he just doesn't care. He wants to right-click Jesse Vash. He wants to see that buyback out of the Morphling. He's now going to try and escape. There is a Scotty picked up. Couple more right-clicks. Bring down the Anti-Mage. Also a buyback from Paseo. KYT going to be finished off by the shotgun, but bottom lane, MiTH just on the retreat here. Demonic Purge going to go out the Tornado to cover the retreat as well. And let's take stock of the damage dealt. They do end up losing the tier 3. The ranged racks taking some pretty hefty damage there as well. And it did obviously cost them the buyback on the Morphling. So Anti-Mage is dead for 70 seconds, but can Mineski get anything done in that time?
He has a buyback, which I think he would rather not use.
Mm-hmm.
All of his gold is... Actually, almost all of his gold is reliable, so it's pretty interesting here in terms of Anti-Mage's total gold at this point. Roshan has respawned. If you're Mineski, you go in there right away right now and try to get that before AM respawns. Either you force the buyback or you just manage to get it. What do you think about AM going mid there? I think it's a little bit too greedy, not just staying with the team bottom and trying to get one lane of racks.
Jumped. Yeah. Viper Strike. What else can they do here? Abba in a little bit of trouble. Drops down the EMP. Nice Ice Wall as well. Just going to buy some time. The Anti-Mage still alive. TNK somehow found his way up onto the high ground with the Force Staff. He's still there. He's going to drop the Demonic Purge. They get the vision as the Dazzle sits over on the hill. Jesse Vash is actually going to blink up there himself and finish the job with the right clicks. Gem hits the deck, but Mineski going for the bigger prize. They head over into the Roshan pit. MiTH going to try and defend, but Abba is pretty low. What can he get going on? He's got the Tornado invoked right now. Going to send that one through. Lifts 2 up into the air. Roshan still dropping 5 seconds until Anti-Mage respawns. It's not going to be in time to contest this Roshan, and Jesse Vash, he's on the hunt. He's found out Abba. He drops him with the Doom and the level death. Going to keep on chasing out after other heroes. And KYT not going to be spotted. Will be able to TP his way back to safety, but Morphling going to be very happy to have that Aegis in hand, especially having bought back just a little bit earlier.
I think Lakel should have bought back. I think the Roshan at this point is just so important that it's worth the rebuy. He knows the Morphling bought back as well. If they take the team fight, they win the game. If not, well, they just gave away a Roche and 2 kills. And now Invoker is going to be forced to buy back. So in hindsight, perhaps should have gone for the rebuy here. And it's just so much harder now that Morphling has the Aegis, because sure, they still have an easy time bringing him down because he doesn't have BKB.
He's just going to jump straight in. Can they get the lockdown onto Jade? Not quite. Boomba going to force staff himself back up onto the high ground. KYT whiffs another impale for this game. Lakelz keeps on going, but he's just so damn slow. He's actually been stunned up. Nice defense disruption from TNK. Going to keep him alive, but it's not going to be enough. The Shadow Demon gets forced back. He's going to drop. Abba also goes down. 80 seconds dead for him, and this could just be the Mineski opening. They're going to start working away onto the Rex. Glyph is going to be popped off. Meanwhile, Anti-Mage heading back to the fountain to try and heal himself up right now. And Mineski, what is the plan going to be? They're pinging out. They're going onto the tier 4s. They know that the Invoker can't buy back 60 seconds without Invoker. They're also going to find out the Shadow Shaman off to the side. Lakel's going to go in all by himself. He fells the tree, and now Paseo in a little bit of trouble. Abyssal Blade dropped in his head, but there is going to be a Shallow Grave to save him as well. Lakel's tries to escape. He gets the blink. Now he's got to buy back. It's Lakel's versus the world in this team fight, and Mineski still just going for the GGJ. Actually going to waveform forward. Jesse, no mana left. They get them. Well, they actually managed to get the replicate out of the Anti-Mage as well, and now the throne exposed. Lakel's just not able to do anything. TNK jumps in. He gets the disruption out onto the Morphling. What can he do here? He's just going to get shotgunned, and they've still got the replicate going to work. Lakel's just chasing the Dazzle around in circles. Mineski making it happen. Jay going to try and morph some Agi and just get the damage. He waveforms through the Ancient and finishes off the game. Mineski, it looked like they were on the brink of defeat, but they pull it back. They get Roshan, they get the Aegis, and they just slam the door shut on MiTH Trust. Split push antics, not going to win them that game.
All of that was just one move, right?
Whoosh.
This was completely, I would say it was even for the most part the entire game. MiTH Trust maybe overcommitting a little bit in the Radiant base. Mineski sees the opening, they go for a push down mid. In hindsight, I think the Anti-Mage should have bought back and fight for that Roshan. What do you think, Gods?
I completely agree. The end result was you had a push coming mid where Invoker had no buyback. Anti-Mage did have a buyback, but morphing with an Aegis was just too much to stop. Theorycraft a bit, like, Anti-Mage buys back, do Mineski even commit to Roshan then, or do they back off? Or
it took them a while, is the thing. Like, the Invoker managed to stall them a little bit. I think if the Anti-Mage had bought back, he would have been able to get over there and stage a fight.
I think if he buys back Mineski, don't take Rosh.
No.
And even if no one takes Roshan, even though you've used your buyback, I think it's still worth it to prevent Mineski getting that Aegis.
I think they undervalued the. I think MiTH Trust underestimated the value of the Aegis for Mineski there.
When did Rosh respawn? Was he respawned
I
when Anti-Mage died in the Radiant base? Because
okay.
considering how much pressure they put down there, maybe could have bought back and gone there instantly himself and just taken Rosh while the heroes were respawning for the Radiant.
It's so like when you die like that on the other side of the map, you don't want to instantly buy back, generally speaking, because it means you have that. Next time you die, you have that maximum respawn.
Yes,
time, so
it is a risky play, but at the end of the day, you could say Mineski went for the risky play. They did the right call of buying back. They went to the Roshan. Invoker trying to stall it got killed by Doom.
That was really bad as well.
Had to buy back for that. Then the base push comes. I think if Invoker doesn't have to buy back there, if they're like, we made our decision, we gave up Rosh, we cannot defend it, no matter how much Invoker harassed them there, it is gone without the aim buyback. Leave the Rosh, stay in base. Then he has to buy back in base. Then it's like they play two different strategies where Invoker takes the chance of going for Rosh and Anti-Mage doesn't. He has to buy back, and then Anti-Mage has to buy back in base, but then Invoker doesn't, and then. You saw how relatively close it was to Lakel's being able to hold that off. With Invoker with a buyback in the base, I think they could have defended there.
Yes, I think there was like two different plans when you talk about the Invoker trying to contest. Like what I mean, he was stalling it. Like even if you're giving up Roshan, there is some merit to trying to stall it so they kill it slower, so you have more time for the Anti-Mage to respawn. But he got picked off. Like I think that was the thing that lost him the game in the end. Like Anti-Mage should probably not have died mid with the Doom. I think that was a bit of a risky move, like splitting up from his team going for the mid lane.
Why didn't they just go on the same lane?
Yeah.
That seemed so greedy, putting Anti-Mage in one lane, the four other heroes in the other lane. If he stands together with Shadow Demon, maybe they can immediately turn around or create enough space to get the assistance in and then end the game there, because they were on the offensive. They had the chance, and then I feel like it's just too risky of a play splitting your carry from the team there.
I don't know, and I'm pretty sure MiTH Trust look back and say, look, we messed up pretty badly. I mean, it was one of those, it's like a late game scenario. I mean, the quote everyone remembers Denny saying, like, why not win early? Just because late game scenario, one mistake, you lose the game. It was one of those things which it's just like, you get to late game and one small mistake makes a world of difference, whereas early game, it's much more carefree and like once you get these teams always playing for the late game, and that's where late game decision making just decides it.
It's unforgiving. It's
Yeah.
absolutely unforgiving.
So how long was MiTH Trust's game versus Orange?
It was 50 minutes.
50 minutes.
So that's really good for Mineski. They won, and they won faster than MiTH Trust won.
Yes.
So they just need to either win their last game or lose slowly.
Yes.
If they lose like slower than, if it's like 50 minutes plus their loss, I'm pretty sure they're guaranteed it. I'm not sure. I'm sure you can do some calculations here. Maybe the admins will do it before the game, but.
But I guess the thing MiTH can hold on to is if Orange lose now to Mineski, MiTH are through.
Yes.
So this game was still not the decider for them, and going into that game, considering MiTH beat Orange, Mineski beat MiTH, perhaps you could say fairly Mineski the favorites against Orange. I feel like Orange are getting more predictable too. They kind of have one.
I mean, Orange did beat both these two teams in the group stage, so Orange had beat Mineski before.
It's kind of hard to.
I don't think any team.
Unpredictable as ever.
This is really unpredictable.
All three of these series were 50-50.
Yeah.
Like if I was a bookmaker, I would have put the odds of all three of these series at 50%, 50%.
Yeah.
Every single one. Like I just don't think anything separates these three teams. It's impossible to call.
So you don't favor anyone for the next game, based on momentum. I mean, if nothing else, based on momentum, right?
I don't think. If I had to make a prediction, I would predict Orange.
Orange?
Oh, it's so hard to call, but
I would say something else than Orange.
That's no, I feel like I have to go Mineski just because they showed, like, the one thing that we always criticize them for is their late game decision making and knowing when they can make those snap calls to close out a game, and that's exactly what they did here. So showing that that isn't as much of a weakness for them, at least at the moment, and maybe that's what they need against Orange, because I do favor their execution against Orange.
I favor Orange from a drafting and strategy point of view. Like I think Orange can outdraft
the winter factor.
Yeah.
I think if Orange does not win early game, they don't win that game. Orange to me pick lineups that need to excel around the 20-30 minute mark. They usually get an advantage via their Shadow Shaman pick, taking towers. Shadow Shaman might be a contested hero. I don't know how much Mineski actually likes that hero. This time around it was MiTH sitting on it. But if you don't pick enough late game against Mineski, as we saw here, as we saw in Mineski's game against Scythe, where they had both a Shadow Fiend and a Weaver, I believe, in that game. I think Mineski will be drafting more towards the late game than Orange will. And that just means in this kind of a game where there's a lot at stake, I think Mineski are going to pull through by playing it safe and by having better late game.
And I also wonder how much the time ring rule is going to affect Mineski's draft here. Are they going to look at this like, we need to make sure, like, we played a win, obviously, because we win, we're through, but they also pick a draft which can pull the game should they start losing.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is really hard, right? Because either Orange wins in 30 minutes, and then Mineski is out.
No, then MiTH Trust is likely out. Well, no, you're right.
Because then Mineski lost really fast, right?
Yeah, there's going to be, like, some timeline. So if Mineski lose super fast, they're knocked out. If they lose at a medium time, MiTH Trust are out. And then if they lose at a long time, Orange are maybe out.
Okay.
Oh, God, it's so complicated.
So there's going to be two different, like, timestamps where, depending on between which times, either they're before the bottom one or after the top one or in the middle, it affects which team gets knocked out.
Yeah, so Orange lost slowly. They lost in 50, right? You said to MiTH.
Yes.
So if Orange wins slowly, they're pretty even.
Yeah.
We could say on that score. Mineski won this game slowly, kind of.
Yeah. We may go do some.
Well, it's only a three-way tie if Orange win.
Yes.
Like that's the.
If Orange lose, there's nothing to talk about because then Mineski are 2-0. MiTH are 1-1 and Orange are 0-2.
Yeah, for Orange to not advance when they win, it would have to be like a super slow win, like 60, 70...
Yeah, and they're not going to play for that anyway.
Oh,
I feel like.
They might. I mean, main thing for Orange is just win the game. But yeah, generally they play early game strategies. So there's a chance Orange win and don't advance if it's a 70-minute game. If it's like a 50-minute game, I think it's MiTH Trust knocked out. If it's like a 30-minute game, and Orange win, Mineski knocked out. That's your rough guidelines. We may go do some math, guys, during the break and figure out the exact times.
The reason that it's also confusing for anybody wondering is that it's not just the time that you lost in. It's also it's your longest loss It's your loss minus your win.
Something like
So,
yeah. It takes into consideration your win and your loss time.
It's a little bit more complicated than even standard time ratings.
Well,
we'll see how it works out.
We may go talk to our stats guy K-pop, see what he's got to know, see if he's figured out anything. He's shaking his head.
He looks
it's
like
tired.
Everybody's
figured
tired.
out anything.
We'll talk to the Nexon admins who are absolutely amazing and who hopefully have some information for us. But guys, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the TI4 qualifiers presented by Monster Energy continues with our final tiebreaker match to decide it all to see who's going through the playoffs tomorrow. It's going to be Orange versus Mineski.